Thursday, almost there. Welcome to Frontlines, 5 o'clock here on the East Coast. Here are the top 5 stories we didn't want you to miss. In wake of the latest trans mass shooter, the DOJ is reportedly looking into ways to ban trans people from owning guns. Now, federal law already states a judge must declare a person mentally defective before losing their firearm rights. Now, the federal background check even states, quote, have you ever been adjudicated as mentally defective, or have you ever been committed to a mental institution? I fill out these forms very often when I buy guns, so I know. So, like the DOJ, are they going to classify being transgender as mentally defective? Maybe. Democrats are all about red flag laws. Case closed to me. And the D.C. mayor is pushing back against the federal takeover that reduced crime. Muriel Bowser now says we don't need the presidential emergency. D.C. Attorney General is even suing Trump over the National Guard. This federal takeover is why crime has dropped so much and your city has become safe. Plus, in a hypothetical 2028 presidential matchup, which doesn't seem so hypothetical right now, J.D. Vance dominating Gavin Newsom out of 5 out of the 7 swing states. Like, not surprised. Vance is a continuation of MAGA, and America will only get stronger with 8 more years of it. And Rosie O'Donnell, Mark Cuban's brother, has been so hateful of America, Trump is threatening to take away her citizenship. I'm not actually sure how this would legally work because we couldn't even deport a terrorist sympathizer here, but maybe she'll be deported from Ireland too, where she is now, because Conor McGregor might become the next president over there. Plus, a mass stabbing in Canada leaves at least 1 dead and several injured. Gun law is really working out great. Maybe Canada will now ban knives after their strict gun control. And we're moving to 6 p.m. Eastern Time starting Monday, okay? Keep that in mind. But first, RFK just put a bunch of senators in their place. Let's do this. Well, that RFK hearing went off the rails today. As usual, it was not about getting answers for anything. They attacked him for doing things differently. This was a firing squad that even some Republicans took part in. And I would just like to commend RFK for saying what I think every rational person has been thinking.
Senator, you've sat in that chair for how long? 20, 25 years, while the chronic disease in our children went up to 76%. And you said nothing.
Yes. Every Democrat sat there, some of which have been in government for almost half a century, like Bernie Sanders, most of which have taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from big pharmaceutical companies. And we've gotten fatter, we've gotten sicker, we've gotten less healthy, while the cost of health care has soared.
Today, we got new data that showed that infant mortality has increased in this country in 2024 for the first time in 20 years. Diabetes has gone up 98% in 20 years. Nobody's doing anything about it. CDC's job was to make sure that this didn't happen.
When are we going to have that conversation? No, we don't have that conversation. And the same senators turned around and berated him for it.
It's a panel you just put those folks on, far from what you said. They're people with ideas that are completely outside the mainstream.
You mean out of the pharmaceutical paradigm?
Oh, snap! If you ever needed more evidence that the system needs to be overhauled, this hearing was it. And just forget about overhauling just the healthcare system. We need to overhaul the Senate. This is the bigger problem here. These people sit there behind that bench. They don't actually know anything. They don't even know about the own bills that they put forward. This senator criticizing RFK for commissioning a study, but then demands the results of the study right now. That's not even complete.
Mr. Secretary, will you commit to sharing the protocols used for the autism study with Congress and to the public?
They're public.
Will you commit to giving it to this committee by the end of the week?
No, not because that's not the way it works.
Will you
don't even know what you're talking about.
Mr. Secretary, will you commit to sharing the protocols for the study by the end of the month?
We already have
You just said it's public.
We put out the notice of funding opportunities, and then the scientists from all over the world.
You're not understanding me. Let me
No,
speak
you're not
again.
understanding how the world works.
Do you understand?
Because the study's not done. But this is the marvel of what RFK is doing. Everything he is doing is database. There will be no more politicization, and everything will be transparent. He said, look, it's public. Go look at it yourself, dude. You can see the progress. This is something we didn't have in the last administration, especially when it came to COVID. And I don't think these Democrats understood that they were literally making the case for an overhaul.
Data.
You have had this job for 8 months, and you don't know the data about whether the vaccine saved
and that's
lives?
the problem, is that they didn't have the data. The data by the Biden administration absolutely dismal.
So who was political?
That last point is the key takeaway, that there is no data. That is why the Secretary of HHS can't answer that question. Everyone who gave statistics about data about the Biden administration either didn't know what they were talking about, was totally based on politicized studies, or was just flat out lying. Just like all the trans hormones therapies that those same libs that are so concerned that they support, that are leading to a nearly 50% suicide rate, they're the same people that they are saying that they're for. That's according to UCLA. The CDC and HHS cooked the books for 4 years, made up policy based on no data the entire time.
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized. Senator, I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they'd prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start it wasn't true, because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based.
Facts, and fact. Like the shutdowns, the vax mandates, the masks and social distancing, all of it was people like sticking their finger in the air, some of which got paid a ton of money by the people that were making a ton of money, and just saying stuff that they thought would fit the narrative. And they were all wrong. And the tone of the Democrats today was that RFK was somehow responsible for the loss of faith in our institutions. And this quickly just devolved into a vaccine debate real fast.
He said, and I quote, that he would do nothing as HHS secretary that makes it difficult or discourages people from taking vaccines. That was clearly not true. His unprecedented unilateral actions to restrict access to COVID vaccines, that alone proves it.
That guy, by the way, that guy looks like he's dead. I mean, senator after senator made it seem like RFK is banning vaccines. He's not done that. One senator tried to make it seem that RFK had taken the vaccines completely off the market.
I think that parents should be free to...
I know you said that before. I do too.
To make their own choices.
So will they be just as free after these?
I assume they will be.
Okay. I mean, this is the fundamental difference between conservatives and Democrats. That Democrat senator from Colorado that looks like a South Park character is conflating having a vaccine mandated to attend school or on the recommended schedule and versus the ability, the free choice to be able to get that vaccine.
You promised that you would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
The question is everyone who wants it. That was your promise.
I never promised that I was going to recommend products for which there is no indication.
Yes, RFK has not banned anything. He's certainly not going to recommend things that aren't tested. He has removed things from the mandated schedule, but you're still free to get them. And this is what the libs are mad about, that not everybody will be forced to get them. And they view that as a ban. These senators are so stuck in this monolith of thinking that when RFK is like, hey, let's not mandating stabbing our kids with dangerous thimerosal, which is mercury, which is in certain vaccines, until we have more data. They freak out. Studies that none of those senators did before mandating it, by the way. One senator went off the rails, holding up a chart that was selectively choreographed and wildly inaccurate to make a point that had absolutely no bearing on the actual policy being imposed at HHS.
The history on vaccines is very clear. This is the 20th century. That's how many people had vaccines and had illnesses. This is the 21st century. This is the decrease, 99% down to 100%. This is what was delivered with vaccines, and you don't want to support that.
It's not that simple, and that's not the whole story. She is actually very wrong. Let's take the first vaccine. See that big, scary red line at the top there? That's measles. Through general medical care and advancements, hygiene and medications, the death rate for measles and even the number of cases had been declining for more than 70 years prior to the vaccine. By the time the MMR vaccine for measles was made available to the public in 1971, the likelihood of death from measles had been nearly a statistical zero for almost 25 years already. But this is the problem. Those people, I'm not advocating against it. I'm just saying those are the facts. And those people behind that bench, they just bloviate without any data. Like, that's what RFK is trying to say. Like, hey guys, all of your assumptions are wrong based on wrong, outdated, and politicized data. And another Democrat showed us that.
Are you aware that one of the people you put on the panel, Dr. Robert Malone, claimed that the commonly used mRNA vaccine, quote, causes a form of AIDS and can damage children's, quote, brains, their heart, their immune system, and their ability to have children in the future? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
And Dr. Malone is one of the inventors.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Were you aware that he had that view when you appointed him to this panel?
Dr. Malone is one of the as I said, Dr. Malone is one of the inventors of the mRNA vaccine, so he knows a lot more about it than I do.
Mr. Chairman, that statement is not true that Dr. Malone made.
Okay, first off, no one in that room is qualified to criticize Dr. Robert Malone. He literally invented the mRNA technology. He knows what it's good for and what it's bad for. He also said it should not be used as a delivery mechanism for the COVID vaccine. But it seems like that senator doesn't even know what AIDS stands for. AIDS stands for, here, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, meaning you have a diminished immune system. Well, it turns out that does kind of happen in the literal term. Clinical data, and this was either hidden or not tested here. This is from NIH.gov. Immune systems of those who were vaccinated have a long-term decline in immune system function. You want to talk about heart issues? Here, again, an NIH study. Empirical data that young men under 40 that were vaccinated experienced a massive spike in myocarditis cases. Heart problems, look, did you know that more young male athletes died of heart attacks since 2021 than in the prior 80 years combined? Why is no senator worried about that? There are studies that, at a minimum, warrant a further study on fertility and miscarriage. This is my point. And RFK's too, honestly. Anyone who tried to do any of these studies and honestly reported their findings, if they went against the Fauci narrative that he was, by the way, that he was pardoned for, they were ostracized from the medical community, and the data was thrown away or even buried. And all those senators are up there because they refuse to look at any new data and want RFK to adhere to Biden's experts that got everything wrong in the first place. I mean, golly. Not one senator was concerned about the fact that almost half our country is obese, that we have spent more money and we've gotten sicker. The fact that RFK is now raising a bunch of inconvenient truths to conventional logic and firing the people who got a lot wrong doesn't make me lose trust in our institutions. It makes me gain trust in them. And the fact that most of those senators there today don't agree with me is the very reason that Trump's approval rating is higher than theirs. Louisiana Surgeon General Dr. Ralph Abraham. Sir, what did you make of that hearing today?
Isn't it wonderful that we finally have a champion for the kids and the people with RFK Jr., President Trump, all the good physicians now that are leading some of the more important agencies for the people's health? They are championing the rights of the people, and they are protecting the rights of the children.
Yeah. Well, speaking about children, J.D. Vance responded to this hearing today, tweeting out, quote, "When I see all these senators trying to lecture a gotcha Bobby Kennedy today, all I can think is you all support off-label, untested, irreversible hormonal therapies for children, mutilating our kids and enriching Big Pharma. You are full of it, and everyone knows it."
And the vice president is dead on. We have organizations, national organizations, that go to the mat and try to get medical and chemical treatment to alter children's identities, their physical and emotional capabilities. And yet, when the facts hit them in the face, they turn a blind eye because it doesn't fit their narrative.
Yeah. But we've seen, these people have been proven wrong time and time again. And remember, this was the former commissioner of Baltimore City Health Department, Leanna Wen. She said this in 2021. Roll it.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
Well, take a listen to who she had to defend on CNN today during the RFK hearing.
These are all things that he has specifically gone against, and to hear him trying to defend them and obfuscate with again, inaccurate information is incredibly infuriating. But I think most infuriating is the specific attacks on the individuals who have worked so hard and are dedicating themselves to protecting public health.
But she had to go defend the people that got everything wrong. That's why we're attacking them, because we want their names known.
And Carl, RFK is spot on again. The things that we have done heretofore are and have not been working. Our chronic disease is out the roof. Our autism is out the roof. Our obesity in our children, out the roof. Every metric you look at in the last 10, 15, 20 years is going the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So let's ask the hard questions. Let's just put it out there for the scientists with unbiased data. Let them do their work and don't hide data from us, and make sure it's unbiased. And we're not getting that now from a lot of these scientists.
Yeah. Well, but also, if you need further proof that they got it wrong, here's Biden. Roll this.
For the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death. For yourselves, your families, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm.
That was Biden's CDC.
Well, as a practicing physician, I still see patients in the clinic on occasion. I see every day, I see COVID vaccine injury. I see the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated population. And I can tell you, the unvaccinated that have the natural immunity have the best protection.
Yeah, well, can't argue with that. Look, I'm unvaccinated, never bent the knee, and here I am alive and kicking. So, Dr. Ralph Abraham, we appreciate it very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, coming up, the DOJ is launching a criminal probe into Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, the man who could be joining the Fed's Board of Governors, will be joining me here. But first, was Terminator a warning for what's to come?
Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, August 29th. In a panic, they try to pull the plug.
I'm speaking with the CEO who spoke with Melania Trump today at AI's task force. Next. All right, well, the White House Task Force on Artificial Intelligence and Education held their second meeting today, hosted by First Lady Melania Trump, with the goal of cautious innovation towards AI.
I won't be surprised if AI becomes known as the greatest engine of progress in the history of the United States of America. But as leaders and parents, we must manage AI's growth responsibly. During this primitive stage, it is our duty to treat AI as we would our own children, empowering, but with watchful guidance.
Oh, you got that last part right. Since getting into office, though, Trump has secured a $500 billion commitment from OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle over 4 years to build AI data centers across the U.S., signed an executive order on coal-powered AI infrastructure, signed another executive order on promoting American AI experts, highlighted over $92 billion in private commitments from companies like Blackstone and Google for AI infrastructure in Pennsylvania, with the goal of positioning the U.S. as the global AI powerhouse, while also prioritizing setting guardrails for AI, which is super important because, like it or not, the world is turning more towards artificial intelligence. But at what cost? You've got kids complaining about a loss of critical thinking in school. Parents are actually suing AI chatbots for manipulating their kids. So now the question is, how do we dominate the AI world while also navigating sensitive things like our kids growing up and their educational skills? Horacio Rozanski, who was at that meeting today, the president and CEO of Booz Allen Hamilton. Sir, welcome aboard. Real serious question. How do we integrate this into our society, but also protect kids and their education and critical thinking skills?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. This is an amazing opportunity to be at the White House, to listen to the First Lady and cabinet secretaries and the leaders of AI in our country. To figure out how do we accelerate AI. We are in a global race with China, and whoever gets there first is going to have an advantage over the next 20 years. We are ahead, and we need to stay ahead by accelerating, and President Trump and the administration and the First Lady are all committed to that.
Sir,
as you point out, we need our kids.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
I get what you're saying, and this could be a huge engine, but my concern is that we're racing to put this into things that might not need it at the time. Are we getting ahead of the horse here by pushing this into so much stuff that we're actually losing physical connection with our own companies?
Well, with every one of these transformational technologies have both a tremendous upside and things we need to watch out for. And the things that you're talking about are important, right? We need to use AI responsibly. We need to use AI safely. We need to be discerning. In some ways, you have to try it before you know. And the amount of experimentation happening right now in the country is absolutely essential. And I think that's what the president is trying to do, is to accelerate that while creating guardrails so we don't find ourselves in a situation where our kids are not safe.
I'm glad you mentioned the guardrails, because look, do I want this? Yes. Am I concerned about it? Absolutely, because AI is in its healthcare, from diagnostics and discovery, finances, fraud detection, trading, all these different algorithms. We got retail, manufacturing, transportations. It's in our schools, surveillance, agriculture, chatbots. Basically, it's everywhere, and it is the system. And my concern, is there a mechanism that at least you know of, maybe, that if it does go haywire, because you are talking about guardrails, which is the right conversation, sir, but is there a mechanism to shut this thing down if it ever gets out of hand?
Right now it's disseminated in a way that it's not proliferated from one central place, and so we can turn on and off the pieces that we need to.
That's good.
I think a lot of the guardrails. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said that's great. It makes me happy to hear that.
I will point out, though, as we talk about risks, right? I mean, there's a risk to our kids from losing connection with the physical world, just like it was with social media and some of the newer technologies. And this is why this AI education initiative is so important. But also, Booz Allen plays a significant role in AI and also in cybersecurity. And we think of AI as both a great promise and great upside, but also as a risk in terms of a whole new attack surface and a whole new way that bad actors can get into our lives.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. Sir, I mean, I think you got the right idea, especially with the guardrails and everything like that. The cautious optimism is what I would have. But Horacio Rozanski, we appreciate it very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, I have your next case. Why is this Palestinian group, that's tax exempt, by the way, they could call on the attack of supply chains for American fighter jets? That and more in our Culture Clash. Not tired of winning, not at all. Some breaking news. Big Trump wins for the administration in the federal courts. A federal appeals court in Hotlanta has put on hold a lower court ruling that the Trump administration will wind down Alligator Alcatraz, the Florida Everglades detention facility, by the end of next month. They're not going to shut it down for now. In another federal court, a Ninth Circuit, the nutty Ninth, out on the West Coast, that Court of Appeals is usually a left-wing bastion, is blocking a lower ruling stating that President Trump's deployment of U.S. troops to support federal law enforcement and immigration forces in Los Angeles, they're saying that they didn't violate posse comitatus and could stay. Well, this Free Palestine movement is getting more ridiculous. Now these activists are calling to attack American F-35 jet supply chains.
So what I'm saying to y'all is that if one specific node of the F-35 supply chain is intervened in, it has a huge impact on our people back home. We need to be strategic and we need to be bold in our actions, because there are many different points of these supply chains of death that we can intervene in and we must intervene in.
On our people? Like, you are Ivy League white, lady. This is the People's Conference for Palestine in Detroit, which has organizers from the Palestinian Youth Movement. This movement is a 501c3. That means they are tax exempt. They are an organization that gets write-offs if you donate to them. How is a tax exempt group allowed to call for the attack of American fighter jet supply chains? They need to be stripped of this status, probably thrown in jail. Sean Farash, comedian, host of Ungoverned on LFA TV, and Kay Smythe, writer for KaySmytheHill.com. Sean, I just don't get it.
Well, I unfortunately do get it in this case. Everything that Greta Thunberg touches turns to a certain substance that we can't say on television because it's not a nice word. Okay, but this is what happens when you align yourselves with the grifters like Greta and a lot of folks online who decide that, all the problems in the world can be traced back to a country the size of New Jersey, that being the country of Israel. Am I totally in favor of all the foreign aid that we send out to all these other countries, including Israel, around the world? No. That doesn't mean I think we should start attacking our military and destroying our supply chains and weakening our country like this. By the way, the Palestinian conference in Detroit, this whole conference about free Palestine or whatever they want to say it is, called for, and I quote, destroying the idea of America. So that doesn't really sound like a very friendly group of people to me. I don't like when people say that they should be destroying the idea of my country in my country, especially not on tax-exempt status. So yes, I think they should have everything stripped and they should be dismantled 100%.
Yeah. Kay, here's an example of people who don't read too good. Tim Kaine thinks our rights don't come from government, or that our rights come from government.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. The statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
Dude, the Declaration of Independent States, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Did he not read the first paragraph of the first document of the country?
Literally going to be my first statement because it is the first most important line in there. Firstly, Tim Kaine and Tim Walz, completely interchangeable. All these Democrats, they all look exactly the same these days. Really stupid, really plain, really boring. Exactly like the kind of people that they always like to use that word that Sean that was going to say, but we're not allowed to say on TV, how am I an immigrant and I understand this better than him? As much as people might not want to hear it, that is one of the great. God is the reason that America exists. It is the reason it is the only free country left in the world. He's the reason that, it's also the greatest country in the world. And I'm genuinely embarrassed that anyone in a position of power doesn't understand that. Because like you said, it's literally the first sentence.
It's literally the first thing. All right, real quick, Sean. In Canada, if someone breaks into your home, the police, this is their advice. Roll it.
In the unlikely event that you find yourself the victim of a home invasion, we are urging citizens not to take matters into their own hands, but don't engage unless absolutely necessary.
Yes, hello, Mr. Rapist. Come on in. Like, this is after a 46-year-old dad was murdered in a home invasion trying to protect his family.
Hey, Canada, your French is showing, okay? That's what they do over in France, right? Something happens, and then it's like, We surrender. Let me wave the white flag, okay? This is such an embarrassment. By the way, back to Tim Kaine for a second. What was he doing with his glasses on his forehead? Can somebody, you guys mentioned he's got to learn how to read. He's got to flip those bad boys down on his eyes. Maybe it'll help him actually be able to read. Look at what does he do? He's got submarine porthole glasses on his forehead. Now, this thing with Canada, it is a disgrace. Somebody walks into your home. I think you posted this, Carl, that there's going to be daylight showing through their rib cage, and I couldn't have put it any better.
Yeah. That's generally how things should be dealt with like that. Sean K., got to leave it right there. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, some exciting network news. Frontline, this show, will be moving to 6 p.m. starting this Monday, okay? The Record with Greta Van Susteren will move to 4 p.m. Chris Salcedo show will be moving to 5 p.m., which is this slot. And you can find us right here on Monday, starting at 6 p.m. All right, coming up, Trump's DOJ launching a criminal probe into Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, the man who could be joining the Fed's board in her place. Next. No one's above the law, right? The Justice Department finally launched a criminal probe into the former Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, despite she thinks she's not fired, but she is. The investigation following a criminal referral from the Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Bill Pulte, who alleges that Cook misrepresented properties in Michigan, Georgia, and Massachusetts as to her primary residence to secure more favorable loans. Now, grand jury subpoenas have been issued in both Georgia and Michigan, signaling serious escalation. Now, under federal law, mortgage fraud can carry a maximum penalty of up to 30 years in prison and fines up to $1 million. Buckle up, Cook. Accountability's coming. CEO of Azoria Capital and the potential nominee for the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, James Fishback. James, look, they wanted to put Trump in jail for 730 years for a book miscalculation. 30 years for Lisa Cook seems fine.
I think it's totally fair.
Yeah, totally fine. All right, so we were just talking earlier before we went on. The problem is, you've got every person trying to buy a home under 40 right now, and even some above that are like, hey, wait a minute, I can't get a home, and you're lying about it so you can get an interest rate reduction?
That's exactly right. It's been 5 meetings since President Trump took office, 5 different Fed meetings, and they've refused to lower rates at every single one of those meetings. Lisa Cook is part of the Fed board that refuses to lower rates for Americans, but will go out and commit mortgage fraud to get lower rates for herself. That's wrong. It's illegal. And I'm glad that Bill Pulte has stepped up and investigated this. And now it's in the hands of the DOJ, and may justice be done. Yeah, no, exactly. And her lawyers argued in court, well, it's a private conduct before taking office. It does not amount to cause. Oh, yeah, well, you did it before. It should be fine, right? That's exactly right. And remember, at no point in any of that gobbledygook they submitted to court did they ever deny the underlying allegation of mortgage fraud. And the reason why— The actual crime is because she wouldn't want to perjure herself in this case against Trump while she's now facing a criminal prosecution from federal prosecutors at the DOJ.
This is unbelievable. But, we were talking about Pulte. Completely destroyed CNBC anchor Joe Kernan. The claims that the Federal Housing Finance Agency director job to pursue mortgage fraud. Roll this.
I'm not going to be intimidated from pursuing mortgage fraud just because somebody has the special title of being a Fed governor. This is my job, to ensure the safety and soundness of the mortgage market. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat or a Fed governor or somebody who mans a convenience store. If you commit mortgage fraud, you need to be held accountable, period.
This is what I want. People who give absolutely zero you-know-whats.
That's exactly right. We are blessed to have Bill Pulte as the U.S. Federal Housing Director. Joe Kernan, who has increasingly become infected with stage 2 TDS, not to be confused with stage 4, which is what Pocahontas has. What his problem is he went off to allege that Bill Pulte has no business investigating mortgage fraud. Mortgage fraud anywhere threatens home ownership everywhere. We did the math at my investment firm, Azoria. We found sort of owner occupancy fraud that Lisa Cook is credibly accused to have committed.
She's renting too. To someone.
Correct. That raises mortgage rates for everybody, because what happens is the banks and the mortgage originators have to price the loans around the losses that folks like her will incur. And so everyone pays the price when very few, like Lisa Cook, end up breaking the law.
Yeah, well, Abby Lowell is her attorney, which obviously represented Hunter Biden. Which, correct. Yeah, I mean, you don't hire that person unless you're in trouble.
That's right. I hope that they're not just sharing an attorney, they perhaps may be sharing a crack pipe, because what Lisa Cook submitted to the court is just preposterous. Yep. That somehow her conduct before taking office, but then secondarily, that the conduct doesn't matter anymore.
Because it happened before she was in office.
Right, but here's the actually interesting point that I brought up the other day, is that, no, the conduct is ongoing. Carl, these are 15 and 30-year mortgages, respectively. Every month she submits a payment.
Right.
It's based on a lie. That payment would be a lot higher, on a higher rate, if it were the accurate description of the home that she purchased. It wasn't. So every month, every time she has an ACH going out to the mortgage servicing company, she perpetuates this fraud against the American people.
Right, which is potentially, over time, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's exactly right.
It's unbelievable. I really hope you get this Fed seat, because I can't think of anybody I'd like more to have it. James, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, coming up, some federal judges decided to do an anonymous interview complaining that the Supreme Court didn't side with them. Those details next. Anonymously, of course. Some federal judges have gotten together and they've criticized the Supreme Court for siding with Trump over, ruling over their lower court piddly on decisions. 12 judges spoke to NBC. Naturally, it was mostly anonymous, but 10 of them said that the Supreme Court should better explain their rulings. They're mad at them for constantly ruling against them. I mean, have they tried getting the ruling right instead? I mean, like, what part about Supreme Court do these apparent judges not understand? I would say in legal terms, your opinion is overruled. Andrew Joukowsky, criminal defense attorney, and Jay Town, Newsmax legal analyst and former U.S. attorney. All right, Jay, I mean, this is like so insane to me, okay, that we are sitting here and they're like, oh, we're mad at the Supreme Court.
We've entered the legal macabre. This is, these are very political statements. They're attacking not only the Supreme Court, but the administration. Could be a violation of judicial canons just doing the interview itself. But you look at the district court judges around the country. Allison Burroughs is another one with the Harvard case, was it yesterday? Not following Supreme Court precedent. And think about what these district court judges have done. They have said, turn the planes full of terrorists around. The President of the United States can't fire incompetent members of the executive branch. Or my favorite is, hey, tell that foreign leader to send their citizen back to the United States because I want to have a hearing. That's the bench that we have right now at the federal level, and it really is quite unconscionable.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, but we've seen this time and time again where these judges think that they run the world, and honestly, I don't think the Supreme Court's being firm enough.
Yeah, with great power comes great responsibility, of course. The complaints that are coming out sound a lot like a guy who's batting about 150 over the course of his career and then blaming the umpires for not calling enough balls when he was at bat. Because the reality is these district courts continue to lose, and they continue to lose on basic, fundamental interpretations of the Constitution, particularly the powers afforded the executive under Article 2, and they don't get it. Mr. Trump is saying it. His folks are saying it. It's clear as day that they are executing specific missions that are appointed to and assigned to the president, and these district courts don't get it. And when they continue to lose at the Supreme Court, I think that they're reading these opinions that are actually quite clear and direct, and they're confused because fundamentally they don't understand it.
Wow, that's worse. Jay, this is another thing too. Newsom, okay, this guy has passed a law in his state that bans deep fakes and AI content in elections. And if we look at the things he's been posting while he's been apparently running for president, it's so interesting. I mean, he is posting literally his entire campaign is deepfakes. Hey, thanks for endorsing. Here's one he made of Trump yesterday. He's got, thanks for the endorsement. Kid Rock and things like this. He's breaking his own law.
Yeah, and the law says that it breaks it down that it's 6 months before the election that these deepfakes can't be made or posted. The problem with that is the internet is forever. So the ones he's posting now are still going to be there 6 months prior to the election, and according to Newsom's law, they would have to be taken down. There's a great number of things that we could talk about with Gavin Newsom. Hypocrisy certainly is one that we can all agree on. the French Laundry being perhaps the biggest. And so, I mean, he's got the jazz hands of Tim Walz. He has the sort of the speaking ability of Slick Willie. I mean, he is as performative in politics a man that there is.
Andrew, I want to give you the last 45 seconds here.
Yeah, I don't think Governor Newsom is fooling anybody with the fake tan and the charm that he tries to put forth to the constituents. I don't think that he's charming. I don't think that people see him as genuine, and I think they see him as a hypocrite who's made promises for years, really promises that align perfectly with the Democrat Party and the left, and it has failed spectacularly. It is the destruction of the Democrat Party, and I think he's the last one standing, and he is going to be the one who's humiliated after the next election, because they are going to have to keep moving forward with the same ridiculous policies, and it will be a disaster for them.
Yeah, I think so. Andrew, Jay, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, before we go, it's Thursday. We get comments for Carl next. Folks, it's Thursday. Back with another comments for Carl. Oh, check this one out. The other day I did a mono on how bad the crime is in Chicago. It has everything to do with governance and nothing to do with guns. And this woman on Twitter said, Carl Higbee's got some nerve, but I guess that's what happens when you're trying to clean up a mess you made. Who's really cleaning up around here, though? This is interesting, trying to blame it on Republicans because Chicago's been run by Democrats since like 1931. I'd also like to note 2 out of the 5 most recent governors of the state of Illinois have gone to jail. And most recently, the Speaker of the House was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. But yeah, Republicans are the problem. Okay. Apparently, Secretary Sean Duffy says they're going back to the moon. And I voiced my skepticism that we ever went there in the first place. And this person said, with all the documentaries on the moon landing, I find it hard to believe that they lost any technology. If anything, we should have gone 60 years with better technology. Yes, Bob, that's my point. Also, doesn't NASA handle this stuff? And Sean Duffy is supposed to build like roads and bridges. Are we driving to the moon? I don't know. Anyway, folks, I am moving to 6 p.m. on Monday, as we've told you about 11 times. And this dude said, congrats, Carl Higbie. Now I won't miss you while at the gym. Keep the same energy and format, especially the opening monologue. You got it, pal. Also, everybody knows I got a farm and I like to do some things outdoors. So Mark sent me this slingshot, Mark from Alabama. They actually sent it to my father. There you go. They actually sent it to my father, and he brought it to me at breakfast the other day. So very nice. I'm going to get this. My kids will absolutely love it. They're always breaking stuff with whatever they can find. But that's going to... Dan's over here laughing at me. All right, that's going to do it. Comments for Carl this week. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, @Carl Higbie. Let me know what you're thinking. You might just end up on Frontline, and if you take hits on me, well, I hit back. So it'll be funny. All right, stick around. Greta's next. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow.